Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Pulp Crazy. I'm your host, Jason Aiken. This episode is going up on May 14th, 2016, and marks Pulp Crazy's 3-year anniversary. My first episode, Pulp Fiction 101, went live on May 14th, 2013. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the podcast and your support across the various social media platforms. I couldn't do this without you. In honor of Pulp Crazy's 3-year anniversary, I'm going to be discussing a story by my favorite pulp writer, Robert E. Howard. The story is titled Delenda Est. Delenda Est was never published during Howard's lifetime. It first appeared in the first issue of a digest magazine called Worlds of Fantasy back in 1968. I read it in the Horror Stories of Robert E. Howard, published by Del Rey back in 2008. Delenda Est has also recently been reprinted in the collection Swords of the North by the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press. That was back in December 2014. The title of the story is named for the Latin phrase, Carthago Delenda Est. It's from the Third Punic War, and it translates to Carthage must be destroyed. Delenda Est is a tale of historical fiction with supernatural elements. Now, I have to admit, my knowledge of this period of history is very minimal, and I needed to consult Wikipedia articles while reading Delenda Est to obtain some perspective on the main character, Genseric, the king of the Vandals, a real-life historical figure. The story opens aboard a ship heading from Carthage to Rome, around 455 AD, as far as I could tell. The history and politics of Carthage and Rome play a big part in the story, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. Now, the picture of a horde of warriors going into battle by Greg Staples that was used as the picture for the story in the Horror Stories of Robert E. Howard, I used that for the title card, but it's not entirely indicative of the content for Delenda Est. The entirety of the story takes place on Genseric's ship, and it's basically him talking to his lieutenants, and later, a mysterious stranger. For a Robert E. Howard story, it's very low on action. It's not a very long story, though, so it's not like you're reading pages upon pages of dialogue or introspection or anything like that. In the Horror Stories of Robert E. Howard, the story only takes up a little under 6 pages. Since the story is so short, I won't go into detail, but I'll give you a setup. Genseric is sailing towards Rome after conquering Carthage. After he dismisses his lieutenants, he has a mysterious, yet oddly familiar visitor pay him a visit in his cabin. The mysterious stranger is the supernatural element of the story. I don't want to go into any more detail than that, but that's just a basic teaser. I enjoyed Delenda Est for what it was, but it's definitely a mediocre story by Robert E. Howard standards. I'm not sure what pulp magazines, if any, he tried to place this in, but I'm glad it saw publication eventually in 1968. I'd recommend Delenda Est for fans of historical fiction first and foremost, as the supernatural elements are actually minimal, and even the supernatural twist at the end requires a knowledge of history for the reader to fully appreciate it. One thing is certain, though. Regardless of the plot, this is a well-written story. Howard's energetic prose keeps it reading like a story rather than a book report. I'll place a link to the horror stories of Robert E. Howard and Swords of the North in the show notes if you're interested in reading Delenda Est. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Pulp Crazy. Pulp Crazy is located at pulpcrazy.com. I'm at Pulp Crazy on Twitter and facebook.com/pulpcrazy. My Instagram is located at instagram.com/pulpcrazy. My YouTube channel is located at youtube.com/pulpcrazy. You can also email me at pulpcrazy@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.